Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. And as always, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so I have Mike Wychocki on the line, and he's chairman and CEO over at EagleRail Container Logistics. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
All right, Mike, so we have our hands full today with today's topic. I'm excited to get into logistics, into EagleRail and what you're doing there, and also just the explosive growth in your sector, automation. I mean, we're going to cover a lot of stuff, and I'm excited to get into this with you. And I think just to get us kicked off, tell us a little bit more about EagleRail and kind of how you came up with the concept.
EagleRail, in a nutshell, our elevator pitch is we do with a 60,000-pound shipping container what Amazon warehouse does with a 60-pound box. We lift it up, robotically shuttle it, and set it down. Right. So we're trying to speed up the process, take some touches out of it, make it more digital, more data tracking. I got involved in the idea. I met a gentleman who was trying to get this concept off the ground. We met at a party, a very, very charming story. He showed me the marketing materials, and it was kind of convoluted and confusing a little bit to me what he was trying to express. So I went home, I did some research, and I realized there's a big market here for untangling short-haul intermodal. So I said to him, I think you have a very good idea. I think we need to repackage how we sell it. My background is in marketing and sales. So I said, let me help you repackage this. So we redid his sales presentation, his website, his branding, and he liked it so much, he invited me to go on a sales pitch with him down in Santos, Brazil, largest port in South America. So I went down on the pitch, and everybody said, wow, this is an amazing idea. How real is it? And who are you? And I said, well, I'm just a marketing consultant trying to help this gentleman out. So we go to the airport that night, and he says to me, hey, would you like to join EagleRail? Subsequently, which I did. And I started going on more sales presentations with him. I saw the enthusiasm for this product. And so I decided to join him, then to invest in it. And then eventually I took the company over. I liked it so much. A couple years into it, I'd done so many sales trips. I had such feedback. I had helped build a team around this. And I wanted to become the lead investor in it. And that's how I got involved in it. Now we're about 6 years old since that. It's about 7 years since that meeting, about 6 years since I reincorporated it. The concept itself is about exactly 10 years old.
Wow. So, I mean, first off, what a story. Like you thought that you were going on just, a sales meeting, something else, like to have any idea that it would really just change your entire life and life direction. So you had it wasn't like your goal to be in logistics or to, as you said, do what Amazon's doing with a little box with a 60,000 pound container. Like that wasn't a goal. Am I right?
No, it wasn't. But what was a goal was to work in something that I'm passionate about. Right? I'm fortunate. I was looking for my next thing. I was a partner in a marketing agency. We sold it. I was looking for my next thing. I did something unusual. I took my family on a 6-month world trip. We tried one of those wacky ideas where you pull your kids out of school and you homeschool them. We went to 22 countries, and 2 things sparked me. One, the size and scale of the world and the size and scale of the supply chain that keeps the world moving, especially when you go into the Eastern Hemisphere. You see a lot of shipping, a lot of manufacturing, more than you might see in the US. And then just the scope of people in the world. And I thought when I got back, I'd like to do something impactful globally. And secondly, when I was in marketing, we were always looking for a product that actually lived up to his hype, right? You can get a lot of clients who thought their product was wonderful, and you did some research and realized it wasn't such a great marketing idea. This one, after that first and second and third sales meeting, I thought there's something here, right? So as a marketing sales guy, I was very excited to be a part of something that checked all the boxes, right? It was a real story. People wanted it. It was good for the planet, and it had a global impact. So it checked all the boxes, and who knows how life gets us on a path, but it chose me, and I accepted it.
I love it. It's a great story. So now at this point in the story, so let's take a step back. And so you're building this team, right? You took over the company, you're building this team. Like, what does that look like? Like, you take over a company, now you're thinking about things like company culture. You found something that you're passionate in, you found something that you believed in the product, and now you're thinking about like team culture building, like what that looks like. Take us down your path there.
Well, obviously, it's kind of a triad. You're looking for certain skill sets, right?
Yeah.
You need logistics people, engineers, people with accounting skills. So you have to find people that fill the operational buckets. Then you want to find people you want to work with, right? People that, if you're starting a culture, there's no reason to bring clunkers in. You got a blank sheet of paper. Might as well work with people that are your friends, especially in a startup culture. It's sometimes stressful. So you want to work with people that you think have each other's back. Mm-hmm. And then third, we've noticed that there's sort of a Kool-Aid around EagleRail. Like, people start drinking it and say, I want to be part of this, right? And raise your hand. I like to be involved. Mm-hmm. So it's been interesting. In 6 years, we have 18 associates, and everyone who started is basically still here and still enjoying it. And even through the tough times, we're still hanging in there because everyone's been to the market and heard this directly, like I did in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So once you get baptized with market enthusiasm, you're part of the team. So we have this great culture. Everybody wants to be here. Everybody realizes, 6 years for a startup is a long haul, but not in a big infrastructure space. It's probably pretty common. And everyone's still excited as the day we started together, and getting more so as the market is getting more receptive to us. Like, it's hard to imagine, but we're actually in more demand than we were 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's go further into the product. Like, so the actual product you're doing, we know what you're doing. Like, tell us a little bit more about how you're doing it and what that looks like.
Okay. Well, the shipping container was invented, I think exactly 50 some years ago. And the idea was, if you ever have seen old shipping movies or websites like Marlon Brando and on the waterfront, everything was on a pallet and a net, right? And then they hooked it with a hook and put them on trucks. So this gentleman, a truck driver who invented it, was from Baltimore, at the Port of Baltimore. He's sitting in his truck, and he realizes, why don't they just lift my whole truck off and take the back of the truck and put it on the ship rather than having to unload it? So he basically invented the shipping container, which is almost identical to what it was when it was invented. So basically, they just lift the back of the truck and put it on, and then when it gets to the destination, they take it off and put it on another truck. It's called a chassis. They just drop it on. And you've seen them all over the road. So from that point on, everything became standardized. This 20-foot shipping container and 40-foot shipping container are exactly all over the world, same box. Yeah. So the handling equipment's the same. The trains, the trucks, the hooks, the booms, everything that handles them are the same. So the idea is always, how do we take touches out? How human intervention, how can we touch the box fewer times? Yeah. And then how can we automate or speed up the process so we can push boxes faster in both directions? So the idea, we said, is, okay, if you can lift a container, because if you ever look at a container, they have holes on the corners. Yeah. They put pins and they lift it up and they shuttle it and they take it off the crane. So if you can lift them by those, can you shuttle them by those? And that's what we did. We invented, basically, if you look at a shipping crane, there's a boom, and the container rides down the boom. Our system is just a very long boom. Instead of being 300 feet, it could be 3 miles. So it's the same structure, same triangular track, external crane rails. We lock the container on the corners, and now, instead of just taking it from the crane to a truck that's a few feet away, we can take it from a crane to a truck that's inland, a couple miles inland, 10 miles inland, or a rail yard. And there's a reason why that's becoming really important. I'll get to that in a moment. But the technology is really just repurposing existing technology. Everything we do, it already exists. The lifters, the motors, the rails, we just repackage it in a different way, put automated software behind it, like warehouse software, and we patent it. And EagleRail holds the patent for the system and the equipment. And so building it isn't the big challenge. The big challenge is convincing people it will improve process. It will improve your throughput rate, because people kind of realize, oh, I know you can lift a 60,000 pound box and move it. We've been doing it for 50 years. We've seen it. But can you actually move my port inventory faster in and out? That's where the big proof point comes from.
And so getting back to your Amazon example, I think many people have seen, the videos of like an Amazon warehouse or something with the robots moving the boxes to different shelves and shelving areas. So in this case, I guess to kind of build off of your example, this would be saying like you can go, like you mentioned, inland, a mile or how long you mentioned, and now you're reaching a truck over there. So like things like, so I'm in Southern California, so I've been to that Long Beach area where you see those endless rows of trucks in traffic sometimes at that port area, and they're all going to that exact same small footprint, if you will. And I'm just sitting here thinking as you're explaining the product, wow, what if it could be shipped further inland? What if you could, like, what would that do for congestion? What would that do for speed? What would that do for, again, that's beyond my example, I should say my professional knowledge of logistics, but I can already see the possibilities and like what's happening. So I could see how you would
Well,
get
believe it or not, yes, LA Long Beach is, our largest port in the United States. It's pretty modern, and yet even with millions of dollars of automation investment, it's still very crowded. And you hit the nail on the head, Adam. You're a quick study. It's really is, what if those trucks could pick them up somewhere else, right? Why do they have to drive through the heart of the city, go through a gate, get what they call a pick ticket, wait in line to get the container, come back out? It's a very frustrating job, right? And globally, they're having a hard time finding drivers or chassis even to do the job anymore, because a truck driver doesn't really want to sit in queue, they call it queuing, for 4 or 5 hours to pick up one box and turn around and drive it out. And then he might be able to make 2 runs a day. It's a really frustrating job, right? So your example is probably 50% of every conversation I have when I go around the world, is how do we, the trick you're pointing to is ports are landlocked, right? Typically there's an urbanization built on the backside of it. So ports literally cannot expand geographically. So what they do is they put a tandem or a sister storage yard somewhere. And they typically put it on the other side of the city where land is available and cheap. Now, what you don't want is, if you want to start storing and sorting over there, now you have a truck army running through that. So towns want the growth, they want the GDP, they want the new intermodal park inland, but they don't want trucks shuttling between them. So our solution of saying, look, why don't we just modernize this, automate it, pick them up, just shuttle them. We typically follow a corridor, a rail corridor, a power corridor, a road corridor. We'll follow along and we'll get them out of sight. They're up in the air, unused airspace, so we're not taking ground. You could fly over things. That's one of the key to this thing, is we don't need ground. Ground is at a premium, right? So when people say, well, if I build a network of storage yards to help my port capacity, how will I shuttle them to and from? Well, the first thing to think of is, do I want to build some more roads? Do I want to build ground rail? Do I want a tunnel, right? Or do I want to use unused airspace? And unused airspace is really the right solution, because we can go over roads, we can go over existing rail, we can go over, it's up in the air, and we're not taking up road space. And our footprint for the columns is very small. We only need 25 feet of clearance for a 2-lane traffic.
Wow. So yeah, I get it. Like the concept makes sense. It seems like all the players involved would over time, and I'm guessing it takes some time for adoption like this. So when you said 6-year startup, but what you're talking about doing, I mean, is that can change what logistics at these ports look like, not just in Long Beach, but around the world. Can you talk a little bit more about like what that's like, trying to go into these markets and really change the logistics on this? Because that's a huge undertaking.
It used to be harder because, it's a new concept. So it takes people a while. While they get excited about it, it takes them a while to wrap their arms around, how will we implement this? And people often say to me, this is so obvious. Why is no one doing this already? Right? And the answer, going back to its existing technology, the answer isn't the technology is the barrier. The answer is bringing all the players to the table. Right? So in the past, you have to bring in the Port Authority, the port operators, the shipping lines.
Yeah.
You have to bring in the municipality, the power company, the local rail company, right? So it's a group effort to get this off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the hardest part of the sale, is to get everybody to the table and say, this benefits all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it used to be they didn't want to come to the table because they could always find another truck driver, another truck company, and there was road capacity. Well, now there's no more road capacity, and they can't find drivers. Most ports have a clean, green energy pollution restriction on them, so they don't really want to bring in more trucks. So now people are saying, oh, this EagleRail concept, we should talk to these guys. So now it's not as hard for us to get 6 or 7 players at the table to actually come together and say, how would this work? The beautiful part of this is our model is not selling technology or equipment. We're selling intermodal as a service. So we're actually funding the system, and we're just charging it on a per box move. So we're just like a trucking company, right? So all the other players have to do, they can be part of a SPV or a PPP. They just have to put something into the pot. And that something could be guaranteed minimum volumes. It could be power. It could be right of way. It could be permitting, right? Whatever they contribute to make this, it really does take a village to build this thing. They contribute something, and they can be part of the special purpose vehicle or the PPP, and we all benefit from it. Now, what's really popular in large parts of the world is infrastructure as a service, because a lot of governments, they want to build a highway, they want to build a toll bridge, they can't afford it. But you can bring in private equity, like a Macquarie and some debt equity, and you can fund these systems if you get a automatic return on your investment for 20 years, because port concessions are typically 20, 30-year concessions. So if EagleRail, we're always negotiating for a 20 or 30-year term, and we'll put up a system. The systems could be several $100 million, expensive, but not shockingly so for infrastructure. And if we can charge $50 a box for 20 years, it's a really good investment for the investors. It's good for the city. It improves throughput. It takes their investment that they've already invested in port automation and makes it more efficient, right? It makes that intermodal park on the other side of town actually work, right? And it's clean and it's green and it has more data to it. Now, typically, in large parts of the world, intermodal, short haul intermodal is called drayage trucking, right? Drayage trucking are typically very old trucks. There's a saying in the port industry, ports are where old trucks go to die. Because if you have a really old truck, 30, 40-year-old truck, and it's just doing a little loop every day, it could be really old. But typically it's unsafe, bad brakes, polluting. They really want to get rid of those. And they're not data centric, right? It's typically a guy with a clipboard and a mobile phone. And now there's some apps that the driver can open to get his box, but it's still, the data connectivity is not there. So the other advantage of overhead light rail shuttling is now I can take the data from the ship that goes to the port, onto the drayage, onto the rail yard, onto the long haul trucking, and we can tie that data stream all together. And that's a brilliant part of why people are also interested in overhead light rail shuttling.
I love that question you bring up. Like, why hasn't somebody done it before? When you ask that question, the first thing that triggers to my head is like the guy that was sitting at that yard one day that changed the entire industry from a net to now we see these boxes on the road on every single, semi truck you see, all in something. Like, why wasn't that thought before, right?
Imagine,
so now this is what I see as that next kind of breakthrough. Like when I'm going by something or I'm driving and I see these containers all of a sudden like floating in the air, I want to be like, me and Mike talked about that. I know these guys.
I always thought either I'm going to go broke or I'm going to be on a cover of Forbes, right? This is a big swing, right? There's no halfway on this, but I feel like our market receptivity and investor interest is also, because an investor, a lot of investors want a hot pop. They want, that 10 or 12%. They want their money back in 5 years. A lot of long-term infrastructure investment, pension funds and stuff, they'll take a small return over 20 or 30 years. So we're a very safe recurring revenue investment, and that's catching a lot of people's interest all of a sudden.
And you're also living in the right day and age for this type of concept. So with like the Amazons of the world, with the shipping, with the connectivity, with the, I mean, now I don't even know if we say the word globalization, but 15 years ago, that was a word, right? And it's still a word, but now it's just assumed everybody's
Yeah,
connected.
shipping and logistics and supply chain, intermodal, all those buzzwords used to be business terms. Now they're kind of consumer terms for a couple of reasons. One, we all have Amazon trucks on our street every day. So people think about, package distribution the way they didn't. Two, people see shipping containers everywhere now, right? They're everywhere. One of the reasons why shipping containers are growing, one, more countries are getting middle class spending. So there's more consumer goods and more resources being put into boxes. So container volume increases every year, somewhere between 3 and 5%. So imagine compounding 3 and 5%. Also, since the invention of container, more things are still being containerized that were used to be called bulk. So cars are being put into containers now. Liquids are being put into containers. Particulates and coal are being put into containers. So that 40 and 20-foot container box is growing and will continue to grow. So this problem is not going away. The other trend that has really made automated shuttling, short-haul automated shuttling interesting is deep sea ports. So these new mega ships, the industry is going to kind of tap out somewhere here, but the first container ships were 2,000 to 4,000 containers. Then they went to 10, then 12. And people said, "Oh my God, when's this going to stop?" Now we're at 22,000 containers on a mega ship, right?
Wow.
The problem with that is it makes the ocean. There's two problems with that. One, it makes the ocean voyage cheaper. But what happens is it pushes too many containers to a port at one time. Right? You'd rather have 5 container ships of 4,000 each rather than one of 20,000. It puts such a bunch on the strain of unloading that ship. It's unbelievable. And two, they're deeper, so most ports don't have a draft deep enough for that ship to come in, right? So there's this thing called deep sea ports, and you see them all over the world now, where you build a port out into the ocean, 2 or 3 miles out into the ocean with backfill, and that's where the water is deep enough and the ship can come in there. Now, how do you want to shuttle down that 2 or 3 mile road, right, that pier, right? So in India and China and Singapore and in Vancouver, they have one. So we're talking to a lot of people about retaining or retrieving containers from deep sea ports rather than building a 10-lane highway out in the ocean. Maybe it's a 2-lane highway with an EagleRail system running down the middle of it. And we're just shuttling them back and forth. You don't have to have trucks going out there just driving in these loops. I mean, we're not competing with long haul anything. Like that's what I always want to clear. We're competing with short haul. And most countries have unutilized ground rail all over the country. So the problem with Long Beach isn't getting from LA to Chicago. It's just getting it out of LA, right? Once it hits the railhead, it just shoots. It takes as long to get out of LA as it does to get to Chicago, right? And that's the problem. So most countries have what they call road to rail initiative. They're trying to get more containers onto national rail systems faster and get roads and get trucks off the road. And so that's a third trend that we play into, revitalizing long haul rail. So we've been talking to all the big class 1 rail companies, in North America. They're very interested in us. We're not a competitor to them. We're a feeder to them.
Yeah, the problem with LA is LA getting into LA is hard. It doesn't matter where you're going in LA. Right. You're in traffic and it's not fun. So good example, though. Getting out of LA takes as long. By the time you're out there, you could have been to Chicago already.
And I love it. That's the thing. Most port towns are major metropolises for all the right reasons, right? Valencia, Sao Paulo. There's a reason why that town is so huge there. It grew up with the port. Now now the port and the city fight each other, right? But they're in a bad marriage because they want each other, but they have to figure out how to learn to pass it through each other, more efficiently. And so we kind of come in as a marriage counselor and say, hey, we can help. You can get your cake and eat it too. You can grow your port and not snarl your city any further. So it's awesome. Kind of fun. People are like, okay, that's perfect. Music to my ears.
And then the next thing is this real? Can we
Is
really
this
do
real?
this, please? Is this marriage counseling going to work
Right.
for our port?
Is this real? So the next question people say is, where can I go see one? Like, where's the first one? Now, we are working on the first one right now. We're working on a demonstration system in the US, and we're working with a country that has congestion that is quite crucial and crippling. And we're working with them on a first installation, our first live commercial installation, and a first non-commercial demonstration installation in 2021. So we feel like this is our year. We've got pent-up demand of port interest. We've got 2 systems being developed. We've got investor interest for long-term, safe, recurring revenue type things. And, being on media channels like yours, we get a lot of inbound inquiries now, actually mostly inbound. And we get invited to speak at conferences all the time, right? You can imagine, like every industry, there's 2 or 3 mega conferences every year, and the shipping industry, every year it's automation, digitizing, right? That's the theme. So everybody's trying to figure out how to move containers faster, less touches, more automation, more data. And we've been keynote speakers at a few then afterwards I'm mobbed with people saying, call me, I want to, you talk to me about my port. Right, which is really fun. You get to be like a mini rock star for a day.
That's awesome. And so let's talk a little bit more about the data, because I wanna kind of put some meat around this. So what is the power of an example that you kind of maybe use? What's the power of now being able to unlock this data? Like, what can this mean, not just for obviously the traffic and some of the things we've talked about, but for the actual, like, the companies involved, like, to their bottom line? Because to me, it seems like unlocking this data that has not really been, you mentioned it's been, somebody, let's just say with a clipboard or something of that nature, and maybe these other types of trucks or vehicles that are moving it. Like, what's the power, do you think, of unlocking the data between that missing link, if you will?
Well, there's really 3 components to it. One is what's on the container, what's inside of it, right? And so it's called bill of lading, shipping content. If you can digitize that and have that accessible with a touch of a button at any given time, what you don't want is you want everybody to know what's on that container for tracking, for safety, for customs. You kind of want to know what's in there, number one. Number 2, where is it? Like, where is it to the foot? Right? I need to know if it's going to be on a dray or a short haul truck for a day or 2 days. There's some guy at a warehouse or a retailer looking for that box, right? And so the more insight you can give that person to the immediacy of where the box is and what's inside of it, right? It helps the entire supply chain. Third, of course, is interconnecting, like I said earlier, the stream. So on the ship, there's a stowage plan, a digital stowage plan is where that box is in the stack of the 20,000, where it sits, when it was put on, and when it's supposed to come off. Then when it goes to the crane, they say, okay, the crane touches it, that's recorded. It's in a stack in the port, that's recorded. And then on the rail yard, it's recorded. So every micro movement, just like when you order something on Amazon and you can Google, where's my package? Every check-in, there's a check-in, check-out time. Right? So we can now create that entire system. We can connect it from the factory in China to the warehouse in Dayton, Ohio, and we can connect all that data. The fourth, of course, is blockchain. Blockchain is the big buzzword, and it had a little bit of stumble in the shipping industry, but if there's 2 industries that blockchain will be perfect for, one is the finance industry, the financial transaction, and 2 is logistics, right? So if you can have all that data in encryption, now it's included in the bill of lading. So now you have everything encrypted, and you can have payments, immediate payments. So typically, if I want to take that box I mentioned from a factory in China to Dayton, Ohio, the shipping cost of that is somewhere around $3,000 in shipping fees, right? The ocean voyage and the long haul rail are the 2 biggest. Those are each of, say, $1,000 each. It takes $1,000 on a ship and $1,000 to get it across the country on rail. So the other $1,000 is broken up into these short haul truck journeys, right? At $50 I mentioned earlier, there's a whole bunch of $50 and $100 either lifts or truck shuttles, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine if all of that was on the blockchain and you knew exactly not only where it was, but the minute this guy put it down and put it on this guy's truck
Wow.
or rail, it's paid, it's settled, right? You're not having to go back and track all this. Everybody gets paid immediately with crypto
Wow.
blockchain. So we have the advantage now of designing our software. Not only are we taking what we consider like the best of, it's called TOS, terminal operating software, the best of TOS with the best of Amazon software, with the best of UPS software, but now we can build in blockchain because we're starting, we're starting in the blockchain era. And so our software, it's called EagleEye. Our logistics software has blockchain built in right from the get-go.
Oh man, so the speed, the way you're combining this, yeah, I'm going for the not go broke on this one, Mike, and I'm going for the Forbes one on this one. This is gonna be good, and I'm excited to watch the rise.
Well, I think people that like this, and that's that digital area, Adam, is smart city grids, right? Because they want to know, what power consumption, what light consumption, where's traffic, where's humans, where's the subway, right? Where are the garbage trucks, where are the and where are the shipping containers in my grid? So we can tie in. So smart city commissions have been very interested in this. Like we could tell you what kind of GDP and what tonnage of product we're shipping through your grid at any given time by tying that in digitally to that network.
Oh no, that's amazing, Mike, and I see it and it makes sense, and I'm excited to see as this grows. And you said in 2021, so this is your year and your first product that'll be out there live. You told us a little, but I want some more details here. I'm breaking this story here, Mike. Give me some more on some of the specific.
Well, we're putting up a demonstration track that will have it will have some commercial value, but the main purpose, 60/40 purpose, is to just demonstrate the system, right? To have a live lifting station, shuttling, switches, track, control software, EagleEye running it, and it will be moving. It will actually be moving components of a factory. But the majority of the purpose is just to be able to point and look at it and take a video of it and visit it, right? While at the same time, we're building a live commercial moving, fully loaded shipping containers. The good news is it's a short system, right? Our system, ideally, we typically quote systems 5-10 kilometers. We speak in kilometers internationally, but this is a 1 kilometer system, perfect little installation, right? So we're in the final stages of the contract for that, and that'll be not in the United States, right? That'll be somewhere in the Eastern Hemisphere in South Asia, and we're really excited about that. So we want to start traveling again. You know, we've been a little bit not traveling this last year, 2020, but we're back in the office. We're starting to travel again. We have a pent up demand. People, are calling us, please come see me. So what's interesting is we can show people and we've been doing it during the lockdown with Google Earth and Zoom, but it's good in person. If people give us, 7 to 10 data points, we can turn around a light proposal for them pretty quickly. Because the first thing they want to know is, I like the idea. Let me tell you about my problems. Right? Okay, so tell me your problems. Now let's quantify your problems. Give me 7 to 10 data points, right? Your volume, your future growth, where your bottlenecks are, how many trucks, the size of the ships. Give us some data points. We have built over the last 6 years some really cool suite of calculator tools that we can punch in these variables and map it on Google Earth. And within 2 weeks, I can call them back and say, okay, here's your system. Here's the first design of your system. It's, it's 7 kilometers long. It's got 4 pickup drop-off stations. This is the volume between each one. This is what the CapEx costs. This is what the OpEx costs. This is what we need to charge per box on a move if we finance this for 20 years. How does that compare to your truck price, right? So even though we have, unbelievable advantages over the current truck price, clean, fast, digital, all these other things, we still have to be within the range of the truck price, right? So we're still held to that. So we try to do both. We try to say, okay, we'll be faster, cleaner, more digital, and price competitive. And so we have to show we're price competitive because no bureaucracy in the world will buy a technology if it's 2x cost, right? But if you're at their price, slightly below their price, a few percentage points over, you're still in range.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to proceed through this first gate of decision. If we can say, look, then that guy, maybe he's the traffic manager, maybe he's the chief engineer, maybe
Mm-hmm.
he's, he can then go to the port authority or he can go to the city municipality
Mm-hmm.
and say, I talked to these guys. They did a quick system design for us. It's $200 million, $50 a box for 20 years. It's going to move this many. It can grow over should we go to a next stage? And then I think 90% of the time they say, yeah, let's go to the next stage.
Wow.
So it's a sales tactic, but it actually has real value because the calculations are real numbers.
Man, I'll tell you, Mike, this is exciting, and I'm pumped to see this first installation. Like, we're gonna have to. I definitely need to see some videos. I need to see what's going on here.
We'll put up a webcam and we'll watch it. We'll be able to watch it all over the world. And so,
that's awesome. So, Mike, that being said, about out of time on this show, but it's been a pleasure talking to you and learning more about EagleRail. That being said, if somebody wants to follow up and to watch the progress of the company, to check out this installation coming up, I mean, what's the best way for people to connect with the brand overall?
Okay. Well, we have EagleRail.com website. We have a Twitter feed. And I believe we're on Instagram, so you can reach out to any of us. You can write me, Mike.Wychocki at EagleRail, our communication director, Tim.Brankin, BARNKIN at EagleRail.com, and reach out to us. And, we have some videos, some 3D animation videos online that show you examples. We have a YouTube channel that shows a few more. And then I have a couple of private videos, which are even more in-depth, which I show when somebody signs an MNDA with us. I will then open the kimono a little bit more and show them a little bit more about the technology. And I'm an evangelist for this product. I love to talk about it because it's so uplifting socially, economically, that I'd love, if people want for me to speak at their group or listen to it or make a presentation to their port or port authority or their rail yard, I'll be glad to do it anytime.
Amazing. Wonderful, Mike. Well, again, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing more about what you're doing over at EagleRail. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you learned a lot. Hope you got a lot from this. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We definitely want you to be a return viewer, return visitor. And Mike, thanks again for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. We look forward to talking more in the future.